Hi, welcome to my channel, the channel of degenerate retrospectives where I talk about video games for way too much, and recently I realized that I don't really talk about indie games that much. So today I wanted to fix that by talking about my top 10 favorite indie games, as well as some honorable mentions. Now there will be a couple ground rules about this. It's my definition of what I think an indie game really is. It's become kind of a controversial and a weird thing to talk about what is an indie game, as I know there's going to be some people who are going to argue with some of my games, especially number 10, that they're not indie games, but you know, there's reasons for why they're on this list. And I will be explaining all of those very soon. So with that in mind, hopefully you enjoy the video, like and subscribe if you do, and we will get it right on to number 10. Okay, I know you're probably wondering why I kind of went in that long-winded explanation earlier, and that's because number 10 is Minecraft. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that think, well, Minecraft is absolutely not an indie game. Well, when I played it in the around pre-2014 timeframe before they were acquired by Microsoft, it was definitely an indie game, and there were definitely people that I knew playing it, and that's why I got into it, but it wasn't the millions of teens logging in at every single minute kind of phenomenon that it is nowadays. It was a core survival game with cool block building mechanics, but I think what was really most important to me about Minecraft, it just gave me this feeling of comfort every time I started up a new game. Also, before this, I had no idea what an indie game even was, because unfortunately my personality was basically just Pokemon, and then when this came out, Minecraft was basically added to that. And frankly, what an introduction it was. It's such a calming experience to open up Minecraft again and just start punching your first blocks to make a little hole and survive your very first night, which is kind of why I love it. I love the main original survival game this game was originally designed as, and not as much about all the multiplayer stuff that was especially introduced and got even crazier in the kind of post-2014 timeline. And that kind of leads into my other thing that I love about Minecraft is kind of my introduction to YouTube and gaming, and probably for a lot of you, honestly, you've had the same experience. You know, you got into Minecraft, you started looking up how to mod or how to survive your very first night in Minecraft, and it kind of led down this whole rabbit hole of you discovering Minecraft YouTubers and whatnot. But it is one of the things that kind of probably got me addicted to the concept of YouTube videos and watching someone play video games. I also have to give a lot of big ups to Minecraft for teaching me a lot about computers and how even file systems work. I mean, sure, I knew how to use computers. I grew up on some pretty old Windows computers and some Apple computers, but modding Minecraft was something that definitely taught me how to use like WinRAR for the very first time to manually upload mods into my folders. So I do credit a lot of my personal computer experience to Minecraft. But that being said, it's a kind of a lot of jumbled things that are maybe not related to the main game itself, but in the end of the day, every once in a while I do feel the need to go back and just play a little bit or do a quick survival new game or something and play for like, you know, a couple days or maybe a month or so, and then I eventually turn it off because honestly I just kind of get bored. And I don't really like the new Minecraft either, but that's a whole nother thing. That's why it's number 10. It's not any higher on this list. When I started playing more metroidvanias, especially indie metroidvanias, one game that eventually comes up is Dead Cells. And for a while I kind of wondered why, but as soon as I finally did start playing the game and got my hands on it, I immediately knew why this game was so beloved, and that's just simply because this game has got the juice. This is a roguelite metroidvania that keeps the normal metroidvania formula fresh and fast-paced at every single level, even amongst all the different playstyles and weapons that you can choose. You can choose the standard sword if you want to, or you can choose a bunch of different sub-weapons for both long range and shields for parrying. And then within those little groups, they have a massive variety of different weapons you can choose based on the sword, like even a frying pan called the Vorpan, which has a higher chance of critting enemies in front of you. And I just love this damn thing so much. It's so satisfying to use. And even when I looked up on the wiki just to check how many actual weapons were in the game, I realized I still honestly haven't even scratched the surface, even after playing like 50 hours of this game. The amount of weapons they have in this game is incredible. There's also weapons that are based on other indie games as well. Like we even have the nail from Hollow Knight, or even the Castlevania DLC, which I actually haven't even tried yet. As for the design of the levels though, something I like is how you're rewarded for going through all of them very quickly or going through them very thoroughly to give you a reward at the very end of the level, either for going under say 2 minutes or defeating a large amount of enemies in the area, making it actually a pretty accessible game for two types of players. But even despite saying that, I know I'm kind of bullshitting a little bit, as this is a pretty fast-paced game, and I know I can even get carried away thinking I'm some sort of speedrunner through this game, only to mess up and jump into a spike pit or something, instantly running a 40-minute run for just a stupid mistake because I was playing too fast. And there are a couple things that can make this game a little bit and that's why it's not higher on the list, and that's what watching it. The game can be a little bit of a visual mess when you're slaying massive amounts of enemies and jumbled mess of pixels just flying everywhere. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm older that I kind of get lost in the messy jumbles of pixels. There are times when I've died though, and I felt it was a little unfair because I just didn't know what was going on in the pixels. Though when you do get hit, it can end up turning into a landslide of damage that you just can't stop. So yeah, Dead Cells isn't really for the wusses out there, probably the older people, but it's really a fun and challenging game for those that like metroidvanias and are looking for more of a roguelite structure. I never thought I needed an eldritch horror fishing boat game in my life, but ever since I played Dredge, I've never been able to get it out of my head. Dredge is a relatively short game where you play as a little fishing boat roaming the seas, fishing for various creatures, marine life forms, and fish that are totally fine and nothing is absolutely wrong with them at all. You slowly make your way through different bay areas and surrounding different islands as you upgrade your boat to make it more efficient and to expand its deep sea capabilities, as well as uncovering mysteries and meeting the island folk in each area. It's not a very complex game, but it has a unique atmosphere that stands out, all while still being a very calming experience. And the fishing in this game is the perfect amount of dopamine to stay in the game without looking at the clock too much. It has that just one more day effect that all the best games have, similar to this one. I also just really love how there are multiple ways to catch fish, so it always feels like you're doing something, always feels like you're progressing in the game, even when you're going on long trips between the different areas. Or even when you end up having a bad time with the main fishing game, you can at least check your little crab pots to see what kind of sea urchins or deep sea crawlies have found themselves trapped. It's also just a really great game to play handheld at night on the couch with all the lights turned off to enhance the experience even more. So yeah, Dredge is a game that I highly recommend, and that's why it's made its way on this list. Also, it's one of the games I made a video on. The next game is kind of on here because it's credited as the game that got me back into 2D platformers after kind of not really liking where the 2D Mario games were going around this time period. And that is of course Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is one of my favorite 2D platformers of all time. I just love this kind of NES pixel inspired world that at the time was probably some of the best pixel art that I've ever seen. I played it on a 3DS for the very first time. I also had never played a game that allowed you to do pogo attacks before, and I mean that really is what sold me on how much fun I could have, because it feels so game changing for me, and it feels so cool as you track their main hitboxes to do massive damage, and then sometimes there's really not much they can do to stop you. You're just deleting their health, and it feels so good. I also love how fun and charismatic the NPCs are in this game. They're not just characters you want to avoid as you go into towns. Each one of them has a potential for putting a smile on your face. I also love all the different abilities that Shovel Knight gets, as they do kind of spice up the gameplay, as there's such a great feeling of progression throughout this entire game. But then the crazier part about this is that they eventually introduced a bunch of other games tied into the treasure trove version of this game. We got Plague Knight, we got King Knight, and then we finally got Spectre Knight, which was actually my second favorite of these games. They also just keep updating it like crazy. I mean, every time I look back into the game, like playing a little couple rounds or something, there's always new modes or new settings that you can apply to your game to make it a little bit more fresh. So I've played the Shovel Knight several times. I've even tried speedrunning it before. But yeah, that's really the main reason I love Shovel Knight. It's just a fun game to go back to, and it's highly replayable. One of my favorite things about Tunic is that despite how punishing it can be to play, it's quite possibly one of the coziest and cutest games on this list. I've kind of made it known that 2D Zeldas were not exactly my thing, but Tunic was the game that really changed my mindset on that and got me to go back and play some of them. My link to the past video would not have happened without this game. On the surface, it's essentially what if Link was a fox, woke up on the beach, and was tasked with taking on various dungeons, collecting new weapons, and unlocking new combat options or new ways to traverse the world and fighting various hard enemies. But there's one thing that really stands out and puts it above other Zelda indie-like games that I've played, and that is the atmosphere. The atmosphere is downright unmatched in this game. I love this game's visual style and approach to world design. I think the thing that Tunic is known for the most is making the manual an in-game mechanic, slowly going through the world, being meticulous about checking everything, beating bosses. These will net you pages in your manual that will reveal new aspects about the game that you didn't think were even possible, or hint at a new secret somewhere in the world. There's some really deep layers in this world, and by the end, this has turned from a cute little isometric Zelda game to truly being something deeper that makes it a very memorable experience. I like when a game makes me feel smart and feels like an A+ student when I play it, and Tunic just does that really well. And I haven't mentioned it too much, but the bosses and enemies are also really hard in this game. These aren't your Nintendo bokoblins that go down in a couple sword strikes, and even the most unassuming cute blob can trip you up, causing you to die. It doesn't hurt the game anyways, because it's on this list, and I do really appreciate the way they've created this masterpiece. And also, I just can't wait to see what the developers do next. Back in like 2019, my experience with Metroidvanias was basically Metroid, and that's it. Hollow Knight changed that. And I know Hollow Knight on a best indie games list, fuck off. This game's ability to pull you into its depths and keep you engaged for dozens of hours is remarkable. Its approach to combat, world design, and how it tells its story are all one and the same and are all masterfully done. What feels at the start like a game that is built up for about an 8 to 10 hour experience captivates you with a need to understand and connect the world. Same with games like Resident Evil or Dark Souls. I live for that moment when you unlock a door or tear down a secret wall that connects another portion of the map or discover something entirely new, widening the scope of the experience. I cannot believe how many times this game's scope widens that makes your jaw drop, and how much there's actually to uncover in this game. The attention to detail in the world is also so satisfying. But at any given point, this game is giving you just as much depth through the screen as it does as you traverse the world. But once you do notice how much love was put into this game, it makes you appreciate it even more. And I haven't gotten into the combat and enemy design, and it's one of the things that makes this game hard or difficult by not just inflating enemy health bars, but the real trick here is how smart these little bugs are. Like seriously, the AI for these creepy crawly shit fucks beyond impresses me and annoys me. Whenever they trick me to backing away and then they end up letting me fall into a spike pit, or I mean, I never thought I'd be playing footsies with a bug in a 2D Metroidvania game. Like, why are all the bugs smarter and more combat trained than humanoid enemies in full-length RPG adventures? And I know this game has been talked to death before, and there's not much really original that I can say about this, but I do appreciate my time with this game. The only flaw, I do kind of prefer my Metroidvanias to be short, and despite kind of glazing how much game there actually is in here, I've never been able to actually like 112% it or anything, because after a while I do kind of lose interest in the experience despite how masterfully done it is. But that's really more of a preference thing, and it doesn't really hinder the experience at all that much, because I still love this game. We've talked about it a little bit. I kind of like my 2D Zelda games. I kind of like games like Binding of Isaac. In fact, it was one of the first games I ever bought on Steam, and I also generally like farming sim type games, but what I really love more than any of those is Animal Crossing, and Cult of the Lamb basically takes all of those things, combines them into one game, and lets me name a wolf after my old friend that I don't like anymore, and lets me make him eat a pile of shit. I'm not a psychopath, I swear, but when I'm playing Cult of the Lamb, my worst tendencies as a person come out, and I love it so much. Mixing and matching the town builder farming type game with some roguelite dungeon crawling action is a smart move, but centering around a cult was just pure genius. The whole gameplay would loop around fighting in the dungeons, beating bosses, and then going back at the very end of the day to see what your cult is up to is just so entertaining to me, and I could never get enough of it because I just love the gameplay progression of this game, and I love feeling like I actually accomplished something. Because even if you fail in a run, it doesn't mean you wasted a bunch of time, because you know at least your cult members back home have collected some crops or something for you, or at the very least they're gonna have some new funny moment between you and a member that's gonna give you a smile on your face. There's a lot of games on this list that I have found fun and rewarding, but this was a unique one for being able to make me smile and laugh and share funny moments with people I've named animals after. But if I ever have a conversation about this game with my mother, it might horrify her. But ultimately, it's just a fun way to unwind, pop in for a bit. And it's even weird to say that the fun dungeon crawling risk reward aspects of this game are also kind of secondary to why I really love it, despite how much fun it is and all the different weapons that you can use. And there's actually a new expansion that's going to even make it crazier. Well, hopefully it's not out yet. Plus, the music in this game is one of the best soundtracks on this entire list. Like seriously, the music is just so damn, it's on another level than most of the games on this list, to be honest. I would say the only weakness I guess you could present with this game is, and I've heard from a lot more people, is that it does feel a little bit like you saw it all, and some of the events start to kind of repeat themselves with different cult members, especially as they start passing away and then you get new ones. But I do kind of want to give them a little bit of a pass on that, because it is an indie game ultimately. They don't have like 50 people working on just that aspect of the game and turning that whole aspect of the game into an entire roguelike where there's always unique elements and unique dialogue to happen, even when you're in like hour 500. Plus, like I said before, they're still updating the game to this day. So with that, this is without a doubt one of my favorite indie games of all time. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is without a doubt the newest game on this list, but it is much deserved, and it's kind of the reason that I was inspired to make this list now. I was kind of thinking a lot about how I wanted to rank Clair Obscur on my kind of list of indie games that I love. A game with one of the best stories, best writing, best combat systems, and of course, ridiculously orgasmic music. I know there's probably some debate on if this is indie but I'm not gonna get into that. I have a Minecraft on this already, and that's likely to piss more people off. I think it's hard to find well-written stories and in-depth characters that feel three-dimensional in video games. In fact, a lot of the times it's why I take little breaks from gaming and go and read a book or watch a TV show to get my good story fix for good characters and a good interesting plot. But Expedition 33 is one of the more modern games that doesn't fall prey to the pitfalls of lots of games writing and just sucking. Not only that, its combat system is extremely fun, and what turn-based RPGs really needed to get more people into it. I almost never sit there and build a character min-maxing all the different elements in other games like a Dark Souls or something, but this game really changed that. I spent so much time testing and experimenting with the different pictos to take on large bosses and just get the most damage I possibly could. I'm also a huge slut for pairing. Plus, I'm also glad that someone else is noticing our lack of more top-down old Final Fantasy-esque overworlds and a need for airships. We really do need to go back to more of that, especially for games that are on a little bit of a budget. It seems minor, but as soon as I saw that and I knew these developers, knew the people that they were making this game for, and they were able to connect with those. All in all though, the thing that makes me realize how good this game was and how much I liked it was the fact that I'm still itching to play it again, and that's something that's pretty unique, and sure, other games on this list have that aspect, but it is kind of hard for me to find games that I actually want to play multiple times, especially games that heavily hinge on story. And yeah, my absolute favorite part about this game is probably the conversations. Yes, the pairing and combat was a lot of fun, but the character stories like CL had me in near tears. It's very uncommon for video game writing to wet the old eyes like that for me. Stardew Valley has the potential to ruin your life in the best possible way. The addiction I form while playing this is so intense, and even right now I started up a co-op farm with my wife and she's playing it for the very first time. And even now I found I was on the edge of my seat playing this like it was some sort of action game when it's really just a farming game, but I take this game very seriously when I start playing it. And I think what makes Stardew Valley so great is the accumulation of all the little details that might normally go overlooked working in unison to create the perfect feeling game. When you're really relaxed, hanging out, playing Stardew Valley, it can become a nearly frictionless experience, allowing for both elongated, degenerate play sessions of over 8 hours in a day, as well as short bursts of fun, only lasting like one in-game day cycle. And every time I pick this game back up, it's for the sole purpose of unwinding after a hard day or just coming off of a long JRPG, which I believe is actually where I started my very first farm, was after playing Persona 5 for the very first time. I went right into Stardew Valley. It's a really basic farming sim at its core that blossoms into a small town life simulator with characters that are just so charming and mysterious that you want to learn more about them. And the accumulation of wealth by any means, from farming to fermenting to doing animal shit. Even the mines feel a little bare bones at first, but morph into a full-scale underground adventure that seems nearingly endless. And by the time you're done with this game, nothing beats the satisfaction of walking through your farm to let all that progress really sink in. It's truly my favorite farming simulator game. No matter how much any other games try to copy a style, I always go back to this game for a reason. And I think my favorite part really about Stardew Valley is ending a day at like 12 o'clock, right in the middle of the night after doing a bunch of good farming shit and a bunch of other stuff, and you've yielded a bunch of crops and you see the thousands of monies go into your pocket knowing you've min-maxed the hell out of that day and you did a good job. Also, I'm just so baffled that I've already gotten sucked. I mean, all these other games I played them for some footage or whatever, but Stardew Valley is the only one that really got me hooked, and I'm going to continue probably playing a whole 2 to 3 year run with my wife, and no other game on this list has done that. I have not gotten sucked in after just getting some footage for any other game. This is the only one that I ended up have played for like 15 hours since over the course of making this video. Now for some honorable mentions. I have to give an honorable mention to Binding of Isaac Rebirth. I know a lot of people have been really obsessed with this game. I'm thinking of one specific person, but for me, it never quite hit, and I think I kind of just wasn't ready for this game, but I really have to give it to this game for being one of the oldest games in my Steam library, besides for like Terraria and then of course Minecraft, which is not on my Steam library, but it's one of the very first indie games I ever played, so I have to give it for that. I also have to give props to games like Vampire Survivors and Balatro for giving me some sort of weird addiction, or games like Undertale. I don't know if I've ever said this on the internet, but Undertale is one of those games. I think the game itself, last time I played it at least, it was probably like an 8 out of 10 in my opinion, where the music is like an 11 or a 12 out of 10. One of my favorite soundtracks of all time, but I don't know, I guess I just never connected with the game as some other people have. UFO 50 is another game that I still haven't even gotten through all 50 games, but it is still one of my favorites. There's other games that I've played pretty recently this past year that are, you know, pretty close to this top 10, like Dome Keepers, Signalis, Sea of Stars, Blueprints, as well as some other games. It's been a very long time since I played, but I really enjoyed them, like Celeste, Into the Breach. There's also some games that pretty recently have threatened to kind of kick Minecraft off this list. In fact, I've been playing a decent amount of Core Keeper when I'm not playing Stardew Valley, and that game was pretty addictive, but I've only played it for like a couple hours, but honestly it is pretty high quality if you've never tried it before. And I also probably have to give some props to games like Death's Door, another Zelda-like game that I really love, and Ori Will of the Wisp, though I've kind of felt a little weird about this one because now I know this definitely is a Microsoft published game, and it's one of those games that definitely was an indie game, but now is it really considered an indie game? I don't know, but I kind of ended up just leaving off the list. But yeah, those are just some of my honorable mentions in the indie game genre that I really love. But with that, Hades is the final game on my list, not just because of how great the game is, but what this game did to me back in 2020. This game introduced the whole new problem for me of waking up early to play a game before going into work every day for nearly a month. And a game that disturbs my pretty rigid sleep schedule, like this game did, definitely deserves a place on this list. But I was pretty destined to love Hades. I love Greek mythology. So mixing that with stunning character art only outmatched by their unique personalities and world-class voice acting, it was all a recipe for the perfect game. Adding on the roguelike elements and fun, difficult combat loop, requiring you to not only beat the game once, but several times for the proper ending, each time learning a little bit more. And even then, the game expands so much, allowing you to do heat runs to hinder your abilities a bit and make you rethink how you engage with all the different game mechanics. And it's one of the best gameplay loops of all time. And it's crazy how good every weapon feels in this game and how they change with different aspects, allowing you to adjust to different playstyles. I almost guarantee if any of you haven't tried this game, you will be able to find a weapon style that you will enjoy. And I know it's been talked about to death already about this game, but dying in Hades is almost as good as winning, as you get to return back to the main hub house and talk to your favorite characters and learn a little bit more about them. And before Hades, I had really struggled a bit with the rogue genre because I always felt so punished when I lost, and I just could never get over that feeling, ultimately making me drop games like Binding of Isaac since I had played that before Hades. But Hades finally helped me get over that stigma and expand on that so I could enjoy plenty of other roguelikes and roguelites. Plus, the music is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, and account for some of my favorite moments in the games when the intense version of a track plays during a boss fight or something, when you're fighting it and you have like 1 HP left and you're nearly on the brink of losing a run. There's few other games that even come close to that intense feeling, and that is why Hades is without a doubt my favorite indie game. Even so much that I am a little scared still to play Hades 2. I have not played Hades 2. I mean, I played a little bit pre 1.0, but I have not played the official game yet because honestly, I'm scared that it's not going to live up to a game that I would consider my favorite indie game of all time. With that being said, that's the end of the list. Let me know what your favorite indie games are down below, or let me know if you found a new game on this list that you've never played before. And if you really liked the video, then hype it, like it, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. And for those who've been subscribed, thank you for waiting a little bit. I took a little bit of a break after the winter holidays, but I will be working on my next video very soon.